Quick overview of this session. We're going to talk about content ideation and how to decide what content you want to create. Next, we're going to go into the best content format. And finally, how you can drive results with that content. So I'm going to pass it off to Leela and Rachel, and they're going to give you a quick rundown as to where they're or what companies they're working for and how that's going to kind of play into this conversation.
All right, you're ready to kick it off then, Eric?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Saltzgaver. I am based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. I am with a company called Seismic. We are the global leader in enablement, and we help organizations engage with their customers, enable their frontline teammates, and ignite revenue growth. We were founded back in 2010, and we are currently around an ARR of 300 million. And we have more than 1,200 full-time employees across the globe. So really grown. We're in a pretty saturated and competitive market, but we have a good brand in the enablement space. I sit on the web and content strategy team with one other full-time content marketer. And then we also work with an agency called Callan Consulting, and they help with contract writing. I do want to note those are not the only writers that we have on our team. We do have a copywriting team that works on web copy, scripts, ebooks, and PR. They sit on our brand studio team. So that's kind of how we divide and conquer all things content over at Seismic. We are in the midst of a pretty full quarter right now. We are in the midst of performing a blog content audit. Since Seismic has been around for so long, you can imagine the amount of blog posts that we have right now. And we are trying to clean that up and leverage and optimize some of the content that we have out there. We are also launching a new experience for our enablement explainers, which we will talk a lot about during today's session. We're also excited to expand into some video content and introducing some new content for stage 1 keywords, which are essentially keywords that are new to the Seismic universe and to our content calendar. And we're really excited to be supporting a thought leadership podcast that'll come out later this year. So all of these initiatives are also in the hopes of us driving web traffic up by 5% growth by the end of the quarter. So really excited, definitely busy, but keeps things fun and interesting. How about you, Leela?
Sweet. Thanks, Rachel. Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Leela Span. I lead the marketing team here at Qualify. We are an early stage HR tech startup based out of Indianapolis. On the other side, we have 20 full-time employees. We're founded in 2019, so fairly new on the opposite side of Seismic and growing. We have 2 full-time marketers, myself and a demand generation manager, as well as a part-time freelance writer. And then we utilize Content Cucumber as our writing team currently. In terms of what we're growing to or focused on this specific year, this quarter, I should say, hiring a product marketer is top on the list. If you know any, please do send them my way. In addition to that, we'll be launching 2 specific ebooks here soon by the end of the quarter. Rachel kind of talked on stage keywords. Stage 3 keywords is what we're optimizing for right now. So we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what that means in the next slides. And then in addition to that, launching a new kind of pricing page experience and sunsetting our free trials.
Awesome. And while we get going, please, if anyone has any questions, drop them in the Q&A. We'll make sure to get to them now, or we'll try and save some time at the end to get to your questions. All right, first section, deciding what content to make.
All right, I will start off. So for a bit of context, Seismic rebranded, expanded our ICP, and launched what is known as the Seismic Enablement Cloud last year. So just shy of a year ago. In addition to that, Seismic also purchased my former company, Lessonly, which built training and coaching software. So we all kind of joined into this one larger organization and expanded our product offerings. So with that, we launched the Enablement Cloud, and it includes 6 different product pillars. And that includes everything from sales content management, buyer engagement, and then training and coaching. So when we launched the Enablement Cloud, our product marketing team performed some pretty extensive research with both prospects and customers to map out a list of different challenges, pain points that they face, and then the outcomes that they were really wanting to reach within their enablement programs. And so we use that information to kind of create a pain points and challenges map that funnels up to each different product within the Enablement Cloud. And we use that information to help inform and ideate the different topics and categories for our content over time. That helps us kind of go on to look at a competitor analysis, right? So we decide, okay, these are the areas that we really want to improve our share of voice and the things that we are talking about in the market. So we want to see where our competitors are at in that area. And then once we kind of narrow down what we want to focus on, we then validate that with keyword research and reference the keyword planner in Demandwell to decide if that is all validated with what we are seeing out in terms of search and organic, or if we need to kind of pivot and make some updates and tweaks. So each quarter we look at a lot of data and insights as well on our legacy content. So again, since we've been around for a while, we have a lot of evergreen content that we have produced. But because the enablement space has changed so quickly and evolved, especially since 2020, as most organizations did, we realized that a lot of that evergreen content that is out there also needs to be updated to reflect industry best practices and things that our ICPs are experiencing. So we really make it a priority each quarter to take a look at what is existing and needs refreshed and what needs some revamp and new content. And then we also take a look at what we need to produce net new that just isn't anywhere on the site or topics that we are talking about, and kind of create a strategy from there. So I do want to mention too, because we are a global organization, we always have to take that into account. The world of sales enablement is not as progressive in the EMEA market. So that is a little bit of a curveball for us, where here in the US, a lot of enablement leaders have a very good understanding of enablement and what is going on. But if you talk to some of our ICPs over in like Germany and France, it's a little bit of a different positioning. And so we have to take all of that into account to decide what content's getting created for the US market and what we want to create for our overseas teams as well. So Leila, I would love to hear what you guys are tackling.
Yes, let's dive in. It's honestly pretty similar, but a slightly different approach. So I like to think of content as like a house, and SEO, we're building the foundation of our house with SEO and organic search. So we're checking specifically for keyword pillars as it relates to our product, seeing where we aren't ranking, and making sure that we dive in there to kind of optimize and improve content there, or create content there in some instances. Egan echoed in the last session about the importance of kind of talking to customers, and I'll also echo that as well and just say I would push that a step further and also say talking to prospects is how we get a lot of our content as well. For example, last year we attended over 20 specific field marketing events in person. At and after these events, we would specifically ask talent acquisition teams and recruiters what they're feeling, like what are they worried about, what are they concerned about, what pain points are they feeling, and kind of use that in addition to the SEO to be kind of a driver for what our strategy and focus is. In addition to that, there's also an opportunity where we've used our data, the data in our Qualify platform, to really start to drive value. We'll kind of get into the details of it. For example, our tool, you can use at any time, so candidates can asynchronously interview for a role. And because of that, we have data in our platform that we'll get into, but that we basically wrote a white paper around. So I would also say, if you have a platform, what is the data that you have access to, and how can you kind of dive into that a little bit further? So knowing how kind of elusive and long-term the SEO kind of foundational piece is of this, Rachel, I'm curious, your perspective, how does the size of Seismic kind of impact the way decisions like what content to make and how content is made? What impact does that make?
I'd like to butt in real quick, actually. We've got a question about what SEO tools do you guys use? So I think that would also be a good way to fold that into the conversation about how SEO and keyword research both seem to be foundations of deciding what content to make for you guys.
Mm-hmm. No surprise, we use Demandwell as our SEO foundational tool with our writing team. So Demandwell gives us a fantastic SEO consultant that we meet with monthly. It is some of my favorite meetings every single month to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of where we're ranking, where we could rank, what are the opportunities to rank for new keywords, what has changed based on last month, and really learn a little bit more about what is changing. What about you, Rachel?
Yeah, so we also use Demandwell. Shout out to our amazing consultant, Mitch Briggs. Like Leila, it is one of my favorite meetings that we have, and just kind of looking at where things are progressing, what we might want to like pivot and try, and just also just celebrating things that are working well. That's always a fun thing to have as well. We also look into Google Search Console quite often for keywords, and then, or just keyword performance. And then we also do use SEMrush. So I like using that a lot to look at trending topics and questions that are popping up in the market. And we kind of use that to ideate and brainstorm on different topics that we want to write about. I think it's also really great because it gives overall keyword intent. So we can see if a keyword is associated with, people are strictly looking at it from an informational standpoint. People are coming to it from more of a commercial and consideration phase. And then that helps us take an approach on how we want to discuss and tackle a certain topic. So that's also been really helpful for us.
I will also say on that one too, it's really neat to meet with our SEO consultant. So her name is Christine. There's nuances in some of the search terms, for example, like from a recruiter's perspective or a candidate's perspective in our instance. So I like kind of talking through those specific search terms to make sure we're ranking for exactly the ones we want based on our ICP and target accounts. So I think that's an important call out too.
Awesome. Is there any other differences between deciding what content to make for a smaller organization versus a larger one?
I will say, just since Seismic is so large, so the approach that we kind of take is one of our content marketing team members sits on our core Tiger team, and that is a cross-functional team between product marketing, sales, content and web strategy, branding. And then I sit on our financial services campaign team. That is a huge ICP for us. And we look at what content we need to develop to help support campaign goals that are happening quarter over quarter. So that's one area of the business that we help support. And then, of course, there's the whole other SEO organic side too, where we need to take the data and the performances that we're seeing and create a plan to help improve ranking, create net new content around product launches that might be coming up in the future. And so we take an approach that way, where what we need to do to help support the business and the various campaigns that are taking place, and then what we can kind of own and control for SEO and organic as well.
Sweet. Yeah, you're dealing with a lot of content, and so it seems like there's a lot involved in making any decisions. All right, what format serves goals?
Yeah, so when we kind of sat down and looked at our site overall, since we redid it about a year ago, we had a great foundation, kind of as Leila was saying, with SEO foundation and kind of having those building blocks for content with our blog. And we decided we wanted to take things one step further and create a new series of content that was also ungated, And we came up with what you see on the screen right now, and these are called our enablement explainers. So these address certain topics that are definitely more top and middle of the funnel topics that people are searching for. And we really use these as purely educational. We help answer any questions that might funnel up into a certain category or area, and pretty much provide any educational value that we can in that certain area. So when it comes to the example that you see on the screen right now, this is a good example. We know a lot of teams and a lot of companies are being challenged with becoming more efficient and driving performance with the resources that they have right now in tow, or even smaller resources. And so when we took those overall challenges that we were hearing from our prospects and customers and went in to do keyword research, that really funnels up into the overall SEO term around sales efficiency. So we decided to create an enablement explainer detailing what exactly sales efficiency is, what it means to calculate it, and also how teams can improve their efficiency with the resources that they have at hand. I will say, because we are in a very saturated and competitive market, any other enablement organization can go out and write very similar content about sales efficiency, right? Like we can go in and do all the research. So we take a step back and we look at every type of piece of content that we produce and look at how we can make it stand out from our competitors and where we can really bring in added value. So last month, we actually launched a research report where we surveyed 1,200 go-to-market leaders across the world to find out what value of enablement plays for their organization and how it helps them drive efficiency. And so we weaved some of those findings from that report into the article to really back up the things that we were talking about within the content, and then plugged a larger piece of gated content that they could go in and read after they checked out this enablement explainer. So this was kind of our pillar that we created, and now we are backing up our findings and creating additional blog posts to really build up the topic cluster of sales efficiency, and also then building out industry thought leadership posts within third-party sites to really kind of stake our claim in that universe within efficiency, so to speak. So this literally just went live about a week and a half ago, and we're already seeing some good traffic. So I think that's my favorite part too, is starting to see it climb and more people reading it. So really, really excited to keep an eye out on it.
I love that. I feel like all marketers just see the data ticking up slowly and you're like, yeah, behind the scenes cheering. So a lot of what Rachel shared is honestly pretty similar. We take a slightly different approach, but we call ours info pages. So info pages are where we decide we want to establish authority in a space. So for example, based on our product currently, automated phone interviews is one of our key info pages as it stands right now. In the Demandwell platform, it gives you the opportunity to kind of track these as campaigns. So it's really great to see it, as well as in Google Search Console and other tools. It's really great to see it on a holistic scale of the key drivers that you want to move forward with in terms of campaigns. So aligning these pillars with specific info pages is a huge one based on authority, and then kind of peppering in the thought leadership. Optimizing each page is a huge one. So as we create an info page, we wait for it to index. We then pepper up the content. So we're adding quizzes, we're adding downloadable content, we're adding video, we're adding checklists, things that will keep people longer on the page. To really start to give people the opportunity to learn. A lot of times if we're pushing people to a product page or a demo page, it might feel too abrasive. So how can we develop more opportunities for people to learn and educate themselves about our tool, what it solves for, and the value it drives?
We're getting a few questions about topic clusters and creating pillar pages and deciding how do you create content targeting a specific thing but serves a more general purpose, such as if we go back to the seismic example. Oh wait, my fault. Yeah, if we go back here
What
about
you do, Eric?
about sales efficiency. So in this example, what is the topic cluster you're targeting, and why did you decide for what is sales efficiency to be the pillar for this topic? What is that process like?
Yeah, so the cluster is definitely around overall, if like we're calling it operational efficiency at Seismic. That's kind of our cluster that we are approaching. With the enablement explainers, we take a very high level approach. So what is that real like top level question that people are searching for and looking at, and semantic keywords and questions that are also related to the overall topic? And when you look at trends, people are just trying to figure out what exactly sales efficiency is in the current market and what that means. I think, a lot of people could just go like, we're just going to make it just overall, like it's a guide to sales efficiency and we're going to put everything in there. But when we really dive into the data and looked at trends and search volumes, and I love looking at related questions people also ask in Google SERP, that really helps inform what approach we wanted to take with this one. And so that is why we decided to really go very top level. What is sales efficiency? How to approve it? And then what we'll do with the blog is really dive into some of those nitty gritty, tactical, actionable items, both that we are writing and then that we are also teaming up with some of our executive team members to write about from a thought leadership perspective. So the explainer is an overarching piece of content that really gives everyone a good baseline understanding. And then we will start creating internal links within the site that goes into some of these blog posts and thought industry posts that dive two levels deeper into the overall idea of operationalizing efficiency.
Right. Yeah. And Lilo, we've got another question that's more up your alley. Got a question from someone on a small marketing team at a small company, wondering what are the best formats for high value pillar pages for marketers with little to no time.
Yeah, I would say stay as simple as possible. I think it can be really daunting as a small startup or small marketing team, or like I started at Qualify as a one-woman marketing team. So it's like, how can we make a difference? Keep it simple. I would say, honestly, the pillar pages are a lot of long form content, but in terms of the top, make it something that you can easily duplicate and make it repeatable. It doesn't have to be very, very fancy. What's really important is to be consistent with developing those pillar pages, or as we call them, info pages. So I would say find a template or a layout where you can easily or quickly share the value of your product, and then focus on that long form content. The better and more streamlined that long form content is, the easier it'll be to rank on search. So I would say don't overthink it.
Yeah, I share kind of a similar experience at Demandwell, where early on we were just focused on publishing more content and making sure that we get the keyword rankings we're looking for before we worry about tailoring the content specifically to certain terms, until we started to perform for those terms and we're getting traffic. Yeah, as a small marketing team, it's just impossible to do everything perfectly right out of the gate.
Yeah. And the good thing is, as it starts to rank, you can continue to optimize it. So don't feel like the first draft has to be the perfect draft. Sometimes you kind of just have to get out of your own way and be okay with it living and then perfecting it as it goes on.
Yeah, don't let perfect get in the way of good enough.
That part.
I think that's a challenge for all of us in content marketing. We constantly feel the need to do more iterations, and how else can we take this content to the next level? What am I missing? And sometimes the half the battle is just getting that first stab and that draft out there. The best part is, SEO is a long-term game, and that means that you can iterate and change once it's live. Nothing is ever finalized, and I think that's always been just like, at least for me, definitely a big challenge of when do I stop? When is enough enough? And when is this a good piece of content to put out?
So let's get into the final part of this. How do you drive results with this content?
Okay, so for our enablement explainers, we launched these about a year ago, right around the same time as we rebranded Seismic and launched the Seismic Enablement Cloud. So in about a year's time, we have 120 explainers that are live on the Seismic site. I do want to mention that some of these are pieces of legacy content where they lived as a blog post or kind of like a one-off layout and design. And when we decided to move and create these enablement explainers, we adjusted these and turned them into explainer content. So there are some that are legacy content, and they've been around for a while, especially around like our staple piece of just what is sales enablement and how to measure sales enablement. And then we have a lot of like the net new pieces. So the sales efficiency one is an example. So now that we have launched them and we have a good like full, almost like fiscal year of data, which is like really nice. We are taking a few different steps to make sure that they are driving the results that we want to see. So first and foremost, these evergreen pieces, I kind of touched on this earlier, enablement has changed a lot over the last few years. So going back and making sure that that content is the most up to date and it reflects where the industry is in terms of best practices and tips and software and all of that. We are also looking at optimizing, I think Leila mentioned this, in terms of different stages and where things fall. So for our pages that are considered a stage 5 keyword, which is actually like the best it can be, ranks and spots, 1 through 3, people are going to the page. We're trying to find new ways to help them convert. So we obviously recognize that not everybody who comes to a page is immediately ready to take a demo. I think a lot of times when you get to a website, that's like your only way of converting is just sign up to take a demo, schedule time to talk to a rep. And we want to find more useful ways to help people kind of continue their journey and find out more about enablement or Seismic in general. So we have created a few different CTAs that we are plugging in and optimizing for these stage 5 keywords. And that includes an ROI calculator that launched earlier this year. So literally someone could sit down and say, I have a team of 150 sellers and it's taking us 8 months to ramp and get them, time to productivity once they get hired. And then we kind of show them, hey, by bringing in an enablement tool, this is actually what you could achieve and see. We also have another conversion factor where it's called Take a Lesson. So people can jump into the Lessonly platform, which is the training and coaching portion of the Enablement Cloud. And they can see what training would look like through this lesson functionality. And then, of course, we do have the tried and true get a demo. Some of our sales enablement explainers talk about very specific pieces of software and tools. And again, that fits more within these people who are in like the consideration phase. And so we want to give them that chance and that opportunity to jump in and talk to somebody at Seismic if they're interested in learning more. We're also looking at ways to improve some of the content for our stage 4 keywords. And so that is where we are bringing in some video content and tables and graphs, just different ways to kind of deliver that content instead of paragraphs or bullet form text to try to get people to stay on the page a little bit longer, continue reading through the article. And then with this content audit that we're doing, we are reviewing our internal linking and topic clusters for anything that kind of falls into stage 3. We know there's a lot of content across the site and it probably isn't optimized and linking to one another to create like that journey for readers to learn more about a certain topic. So once we have the audit done in itself, we'll be able to sit down and actually figure out where we need to go in and optimize our internal linking strategy to really improve those topic clusters. And then really what I'm excited about is we're just redesigning the overall explainer layout. And we will be A/B testing it with the current layout to see if we can improve overall engagement and conversions. So it is literally something that is in the works right now. We have a sprint for it. I'm really excited to see what our awesome design team is coming up with for the overall experience. And yeah, we're hoping to launch that later this quarter. So once, obviously a big part of making sure we're driving results, you have to track how they are performing to make sure you're driving the results that you want to see. So we are looking at a few different performance dashboards on a weekly basis with our analytics team, and those dashboards track page views, the traffic source, like where people are landing on these explainers from, the bounce rate, the scroll depth of the page itself, the CTA tracking that we have on the site. And then we worked with our amazing marketing ops team to create a Salesforce report that looks at MQLs, demos, EOAs, and the pipeline that have directly been influenced by people who land on these explainers. So we can go in and look at attribution and tracking and literally see that like someone landed on what is sales enablement, eventually converted and filled out the form to take a demo. Now they're in EOA and are contributing to the pipeline. So I love getting real into the nitty-gritty details and seeing that a certain piece of content that we worked on has helped contribute to a certain dollar amount to the company. I think that's really awesome. And then of course, Leela touched on this. We are really diving into campaigns. I am so excited about the campaign portion in Demandwell. Not only is that allowing us to track keyword stages and where things are happening with the average ranking, but then we can dive into keyword performance. So we are going in and assigning certain explainers to be like, that's the page, that is our primary page assigned to a specific keyword. And then we can track and make sure that that page that we are wanting to rank the best for that keyword is actually performing in the way that we want it to. And then what's great within Demandwell is it also provides recommendations based on data of things that we can do within our content strategy to help improve results and pivot and kind of change up our strategy to make sure that we are seeing what we want to have happen. So literally I've been setting that up the last few weeks, and I'm really excited to dive more into that over the next few months.
I'm going to jump in real quick. We got a question about the different stages for keywords, and I'll just explain real quick. It's a Demandwell thing. There's 5 different stages for keywords. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. So when Rachel was talking about stage 3, that's ranking in the top 10. So you're on page 1, except now Google has a weird search interface, but essentially you're ranking in the top 10 at stage 3. Stage 4, you're ranking in the top 3. Stage 5, you're also optimized for click-through rate. So 5 is the best. It means you're pretty much done with the with keyword rankings and click-through rate optimization. You're generating traffic with that keyword now. So if anyone has any more questions about stages, I can drop a link to a blog post that explains that more.
And these are just 2 quick examples of the Salesforce dashboards. I think sometimes it's nice to have a visual when we're talking about data and the things that we see. So what's great is I can go into a granular standpoint and click, each of these bars, and it will show the specific explainers, how they're performing and what they're influencing. So it's a nice holistic view, but then I can also really dive in from quarter over quarter and every fiscal year. So those are just two quick examples of what we have living in Salesforce right now.
In terms of, I know I mentioned the SEO Foundation quite a few times, so I know we're getting close on time, so I'll kind of run through this, but give you the TLDR. In terms of building an SEO foundation, what we did in 2022 was develop 77 pillar pages or info pages. What that means is we decided where we were going to establish that authority and then created those pages to just see what started to rank. From there, we optimized. I kind of mentioned before, we added checklists, videos. A self-guided walkthrough was a really great one that we added both to our homepage as well as to some pillar pages. Customer case studies, ROI calculator, similar to you, Rachel. Interactive quizzes. One of the big quizzes we added was the adverse impact calculator, allowing people to kind of dive in and see if their hiring practices are equitable. And then just related content. How can I continue to learn? If there's something I want to dive into a little more deeply, how can I do so? So an example here, let's see what is next with the details, results. Example here, happy to report, by the way, that we got to 77 by end of the year, but we have a lovely, wonderful content strategist on the team, Taylor Rose, who I would recommend without question, who has helped us get to now, I think 100 demand pages as of today. So a lot of demand pages, a ton of work, but you can see with these results that it's really, really worth it in terms of building that foundation. So in January of 22, so last year, you can see that primarily acquisition was from direct traffic. Not bad, but of course you want to kind of diversify where those where your people are coming from. So you can see now after a full year of developing those 77 demand pages, you can see that organic search is our highest attribution channel. So important to kind of build that foundation to diversify your acquisition channels and to better understand where your customers are coming and honestly what they want to learn moving forward. Similar metrics, honestly, I did not include all of them, but page views, traffic source, obviously accepted leads. One big one for us is time spent on page or average time on page by page. What we did find with all those demand pages, pillar pages, or info pages, depending on what you want to call them, is that people were spending 4 times the amount of time on the info pages to learn. So that really gave us an indicator that it was time to develop more of a kind of journey for those prospects, for those low intent prospects, to learn more and give them opportunities to engage with our product in different ways. Rachel already kind of touched on it. Keyword refreshes are wonderful. We just did one this month. So it just gives you an opportunity to say, what are the keywords? What are the long tail, short tail keywords that we want to kind of continue to pull into our content? Share of search is one that I don't think we've talked on a lot, but gives an opportunity to say, hey, how are we ranking in terms of organic search against our competitors? Where are there gaps that we can get some, I won't say quick, but quicker wins since SEO is so elusive and long-term. So just share of search really gives you a lay of the land in terms of your competitors and where you can kind of start to move the needle little by little with new opportunities.
All right, so we've pretty much come to the end of our session. We only have a couple minutes left. If we can't get to everyone's questions, please reach out to us on LinkedIn or email us and we'll be sure to answer any questions you have. I've been trying to type out a few of the answers to questions in your chat. We have one question here from Justin. How do you focus on directing visitors to one call to action versus offering multiple call to actions on a given web page? I think this is pretty apparent for B2B businesses in particular.
Yeah, A/B testing is what we do. We A/B test and see what works the best. We don't assume that what we think will work will work. So test and learn from that is what I would say.
That's exactly what we'll be A/B testing with this new design, is bringing in different CTAs and formats of how those are displayed and testing to see where people are encouraged to go and then what they're actually clicking. So.
All right. I think we're almost at time. I do want to shout out, we do have a weekly webinar series that we're going to be launching next week. Our first session is going to be future-proofing SEO in the age of AI. So if you want to register for that, we have a link down at the bottom, demandwell.com/SGW. Yeah, thank you all for joining us. Again, to answer any final questions, you can email any of us. You can contact us on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to answer any lingering questions you have.